I'm Kathleen Henderson from Roots and Boots, and I'm going to show you how to harvest garlic and how to cure it for storage. I like to plant my garlic in our food forest or our permaculture orchard here. I plant them around each tree and even around some of the berry bushes here in our food forest. And there are a couple of reasons for this. One is that it frees up space in my veggie garden for other veggies. And two is it actually helps the fruit trees. It's good to have a ring of something around the fruit trees. It could be daffodils, it could be garlic, it could be onions. All of those things help to protect the tree from nibblers and diggers and tunnelers. So those are the two reasons why I like to plant garlic in my food forest. Back to my number one reason for planting garlic out here in the food forest, freeing up space in my veggie garden, and that has to do with the timing of garlic. So garlic is on a different timetable from a lot of the other veggies that we would typically grow in a garden. Garlic is planted in the fall as a bulb, just like you would plant any other bulb, like daffodils or tulips. You plant it as a bulb in the fall before the first frost, and then it stays down there under the ground. And when it starts to warm up in spring, then it will start sending up a shoot, and then that's when it forms, and the bulb is forming underground. If you grow hardneck garlic, you will get a scape. So it'll be like a curly flower stalk. And as soon as that starts to come up and be curly, kind of spiral, then you cut the scape. You can use the scapes. I have a whole video about harvesting garlic scapes and how to cut them and use them. But you cut the scape in order to tell the plant to send its energy down to that bulb. You want it to form a big bulb. You don't want it to spend its energy on that flower stalk. So you cut the scape, energy goes down to the bulb. The bulb is bulbing out all through the spring, and then kind of midsummer, at least for me here in zone 7A, early July is when I tend to harvest my garlic. And then you contrast that with most of the other veggies that we would grow in a veggie garden, which are planted in spring. And many of them won't be harvested until later in the season. So for the garlic, I love keeping it in the food forest out here in our orchard, because then I can just do my normal veggie thing in the veggie garden, and the garlic can be on its kind of opposite timetable out here. But if you don't have a food forest and you want to grow garlic, here is my recommendation for how to maximize growing space. Following your garlic, you could plant things like beans, green beans, pole runner beans. You could wait and save that space for your fall garden, and things like carrots. You could plant other root veggies like beets or turnips. You could even wait and do greens like spinach or lettuce. So those are things that would work well following garlic if you are planting your garlic in your veggie garden where you're wanting to, not leave that space empty for the rest of the growing season. That's wasted real estate in your veggie garden. So those are things that would work well to follow garlic. Now, for harvesting garlic, you need some kind of tool. This is a weeding tool that works pretty well. You could also use a trowel. You could also use a shovel. The important things are you don't want to slice into your garlic bulb, so just steer clear of the base of the plant. But then I use my digging implement to go down and up like a lever to kind of push that bulb up. And at the same time, with my other hand, I am gently pulling up on the stalk. Now, if you pull too hard on the stalk, or if your soil is not very loose, if you have a little harder time getting that bulb up out of the ground and you pull too hard, you could sever the stalk from the bulb, and you want to avoid doing that. So it's kind of like a joint motion. With the one hand, I'm using that digging implement and I'm levering that bulb up. I'm working down under the soil underneath the bulb, and with the other hand I'm gently pulling, and you can start to get a feel. You can feel when it's starting to come and it's safe to pull as you're also levering the bulb up. And you can also start to get a feel for when the stalk might be rotted and soft and you might sever it completely from the bulb. So in my experience, if the stalk is soft and rotted, then the bulb is too. And so if that happens, if I pull off a stalk and it's very soft and mushy at the end, sometimes I don't even worry about digging that bulb out of the ground, because I know it's not really going to be worth, I'm not really going to be able to eat it. That's my method for harvesting garlic. It's pretty simple. Now here in my food forest, the soil is not as loose and rich as it is in my veggie garden. So when I have grown garlic in my veggie garden, it felt easier to pull out of the ground. I'm having to work a little harder, especially in some spots, and I have severed some of the stalks from the bulbs, which, if it happens to a few bulbs, it's fine, because you just eat those up first. They're just not going to be good for long-term storage. But this soil is still in transformation process from clay to rich soil, and so some of the spots around some of the trees have been a little more difficult to get the bulbs out. But I'm just thrilled to be able to use this space in my food forest to grow all this garlic and save that space for other veggies in my veggie garden. Plus, as I said, I love that the garlic contributes to that fruit tree guild. And by the way, I do have another video about how to plant a fruit tree guild, other plants that you can use around your fruit trees to benefit the trees. So look for that video if you're interested. And next, I'm going to show you how we lay out our garlic to dry and cure, and then the final step before storing it for the year to come, until I do this all over again next year. Now that we've harvested our garlic, it's time to cure it. We keep the leaves and stalks attached to the bulbs during the curing process, which can take 2 to 3 weeks. We like to cure our garlic in our garage. Some people use a covered porch for curing garlic. The important thing is that you want it to be out of direct sunlight, and you want to aim for temperatures that are approximately between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And of course, you want it to be somewhere dry. We actually use the same wire shelving that we use for our seed starting purposes, which works well because by the time we need to cure things like garlic and onion bulbs, we're finished using the shelves for our spring seed starting. We lay the garlic out in a single layer, being careful not to bruise the bulbs because they can be kind of fragile. We allow them to cure on these racks for about 2 to 3 weeks until they're all dried out. And then we will separate the bulbs from the stalks for storage. We like to store our garlic in mesh bags. We save them from things like oranges that we buy at the grocery store, lemons, etc. And that's how we store the garlic bulb long term in a dark, cool spot in our basement. And I grow hardneck garlic, which is said to have a shorter shelf life, but my garlic keeps all year long until I grow next year's garlic. So this system has worked perfectly for us. One important note is that when the curing process is finished and you remove the stalks and leaves from the garlic bulbs, you do want to separate out any bulbs that got damaged, like if you sliced into a bulb accidentally during the harvesting process, or if you accidentally pulled the stalk off the bulb during harvesting before it had a chance to cure and dry. You want to set those bulbs aside and use them first. I usually bring those up into my kitchen so that we can use them first. And then all the rest of the bulbs go into long-term storage.